All right, good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. If you're here in this room today, can you just do a thumbs up or a wave so that we can get some reactions from everyone as well? All right, that sounds great. Although I can't hear you, but I can see you. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today for webinar, Seek Talent, Professional Reliable Developers and Where to Find Them, organized by Talent JDI. I'm Jason Tan, Commercial Manager at JDI Group, and it's a pleasure to be your host for today's session. As businesses navigate tighter budgets and growing pressure to scale efficiently, the challenge of finding top-tier developers has never been more pressing. That's why we're here, to explore how Vietnam is becoming one of the region's most promising tech talent hubs and how you can leverage this opportunity in your own hiring strategy. Before we begin the session, let me take a few moments to share more about Talent JDI, the host for this webinar. Talent JDI is a leading recruitment firm dedicated to helping businesses scale smarter and with over 10 years of experience supporting innovative companies in sourcing, managing, and growing high-performance teams in Vietnam. They're excited to bring those insights to you in today's webinar and share them with you. Some announcements before we begin. Today's session will run for approximately 1 hour. We are recording this webinar, and you will be able to receive the full video and other resources that we will be sharing after the session. Please feel free to submit your questions anytime via the Zoom chat box. Here's a quick look at today's webinar and the agenda. Why Vietnam is rising as a key market for tech talent, how to find and evaluate high-quality developers, strategies to building an effective and modern tech team, and followed by a Q&A session where all your questions that you have put into the chat box will be answered as much as possible with the time given by our panelists and speakers. To start things off, we will take a closer look at Vietnam's emergence as a regional tech powerhouse, from talent supply and infrastructure to cost competitiveness and skill breakdown. Guiding us through this is Mr. Frank Lee, founder and managing director of JDI Group. Frank has over 13 years of experience helping startups scale across Asia and more than a decade of building and leading ventures in Vietnam. He has worked closely with founders, investors, and tech teams across borders, and few know the Vietnam tech scene better than he does. Frank also serves as the chairman for the Startups and Innovations Committee in the Singapore Chamber of Commerce Vietnam. Frank, over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Hi. Yes, I've been going between Singapore and Vietnam for the past 10 years, always looking at the talent piece, focused on tech and innovation. So Vietnam is a very special market to me, because over these past 10 years, I make many friends, understand all the challenges between Singapore and Vietnam, because this is the route that I apply with for the past 10 years itself. Yeah, I see Vietnam as a growing hub, also because of there's a lot of opportunities now, or rather problems in the startup innovation and ecosystem, especially with AI coming up. Because now is a time where tech talents are scarce, right? In Singapore itself, the talent costs are high. Globally, not just in Singapore itself, due to the digitalization competition. Every company is looking at how to digitalize, how to use AI to make the more efficient use of their resources for growth itself. And it's always a way of finding a better, more cost-effective way via tech to build up the capabilities of the company. And that is also true. They're building up their own tech teams to maintain competitive edge advantage itself. Now, we have been looking around the many different regions. Why Vietnam compared to other areas? That's for another discussion itself, because there's a lot of different hubs like Vietnam, Indonesia, etc. But for today, let's just focus on Vietnam. In Vietnam itself, we will see that there are three cities that you need to focus on: Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang itself. JDI is mainly based in Ho Chi Minh City. We have presence in Hanoi and Da Nang as well, but we are mainly in Ho Chi Minh City because that's where most of the developers are. You have some in Hanoi and also some in Da Nang, which is a rising hub for tech developers. We will also go through more about the skill set, skill level comparisons, and cost comparisons later on. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in terms of market opportunity, why companies are tapping into Vietnam, why we are having more and more such companies looking and asking me questions about Vietnam is also, yeah, just as I mentioned, the high cost globally. We are seeing companies from countries like Australia, Hong Kong, Japan definitely, China some even, and Southeast Asia looking at Vietnam as a way to get lower costs, to lower their costs in software development. So we have done research itself. What the main reason why companies going to Vietnam is really because of the shortage of talents with the required skill sets in the home country. We also see that there's intense market competition in the bid for talents in the local scene in Singapore and Australia itself. So of these bids, it's always the case whereby the companies, well, with a bigger budget, the banks especially, right, are able to get these great talents over the MNCs as well. So, but then that keeps the prices going up and up. And it's not we don't see any salaries going to drop anytime soon. So together with that, there's also an inability to match the salary expectations. And also other concerns are ability to attract enough applicants and insufficient tech talents with abilities, right? So next slide, please. So why Vietnam? Vietnam at a glance, right? We for the past 10 years when we look at Vietnam, we need to also see how we can grow together with our tech team over in Vietnam itself. We like Vietnam because it is a political stable landscape. When you go inside over there, once you understand the rules and regulations, it doesn't flop, right? Because it's political stable, it's a communist country, yes. The government doesn't change. It has strong commitment to and welcomes with open arms for foreign companies to go into the Vietnam market itself. Social landscape wise, you have a lot of young people, 55.5% under 35 years old. So this gives a lot of growth for potential for your resource team over in Vietnam. We are seeing from 101 million, it's going to 120 million population by 2050. This also gives some of my clients a thought, like maybe Vietnam is also a market, not just for tech development, but also a market in the future, right? And that is true. We are seeing some of our companies like going into Vietnam, not just to access tech talent, but also to try and establish a B2C business or B2B business there. We're also seeing the middle class rising from 13% to 26%. That's a double from 13 to 26% over the next 2 years itself. It is a fast growing country with good middle class income over there. Internet penetration rate is pretty high, 79.1%, and it's going to be stabilizing around 80% this year, right? So with this high internet penetration rate, there's no such questions of will my developer have internet access from their home or from the office? I think that's a question that was maybe 10 years ago you've been asked, but it's no longer such a question in the Vietnam market. Economic wise, yeah, we are seeing higher growth and also increasing disposable income. That gives us to more question of the secondary concern of secondary possibility of Vietnam as a market. But by looking back at technology landscape itself, it is a flourishing startup ecosystem. We are seeing more startups coming up. The country has put the digital economy as one of their growth for the future. They want to reach, it's already 20% by GDP in 2025, and they look at 7% annual growth. There are great plans by the government to look at digital transformation that's been approved at the highest level. And we are all seeing the universities producing great IT workforces coming out to the market into the workforce. Next slide, please. So yes, the market opportunities, what makes Vietnam really stand out is that there's 1.5 million individuals in the digital tech sector, not just the developers, but all the other supporting QA, QC services, marketing services, etc., all employed over there. So it is a pretty large, sizable population of people supporting the tech ecosystem. So we will see that if you go into the Vietnam market, people are also looking at more of the other secondary things, even AI, digital, data analytics, as well as low code software development, right? So it's second ranked in the Southeast Asia as the lowest minimum operating cost in Southeast Asia. With also the great, we see that 80,000 graduates are joining the workforce annually. We don't see it slowing down. We are seeing more, in fact, more scaling up because of the demand from the market. More universities are producing ICT graduates to join the workforce, which will make it more available. But of course, we are still facing the problem where globally there's never enough developers currently. Yeah, with 500,000 IT specialists working in Vietnam right now, it is still a good pool of developers for you to base your next tech hub in. Next slide, please. Yeah, just now I mentioned there are three top IT hubs: Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang. Companies in Ho Chi Minh City are mainly there for commercial reason because it is like it is you can put a comparison to China whereby there's Beijing and Shanghai, right? So Ho Chi Minh City is more of the commercial center of Vietnam. It is not the capital. The capital is Hanoi, right? So but most of the businesses are getting done in Ho Chi Minh City, and that's where you find more than 55% of the market of developers out there. Over in Hanoi side, there are also developers. It's about 20 something percent of the market that we see over here. So the over in Hanoi, what we see is more of the Chinese companies setting up because of the proximity to China. What we see is Japanese companies over there hiring, and also the telcos as well as the banks setting up their presence over there. Simply because Hanoi is where the capital is. For all your licensing needs, you need to be in Hanoi. That's why they also hire developers to be near the businesses in Hanoi itself. Da Nang is an upcoming hub. We are seeing a lot of digital nomads setting up teams over in Da Nang because it's a nice place to be in for digital nomads, nice beach, etc. And we are also seeing the other tech giants going to Da Nang to set up their universities as well as training centers for more developers, simply because that the demand is just overwhelming in the whole global scene, right? So if you are looking at Vietnam, yes, happy to go and sit down with you to run through which city is best suited for you, for your team. Next slide, please. So Vietnamese that developer skill sets and skill comparison, just like I mentioned, their second is an ASEAN. Singapore is still very good in the developer skill sets. It's just that it's just too expensive over in Singapore, right? We are seeing the developer, how experienced are there? If you see the top right graph, you also see that a lot of them are coming up with 2 years or 3 years experience, and it will shift to 4 and 5 years experience in the future. We have been seeing the growth of these developers from the past 10 years itself. 10 years ago, they were very early stage. You have a lot of MNCs there, but skill sets wise aren't that developed. As over the past 10 years, we are having seen more foreign companies doing more complicated development, more enterprise development. That gives rise to more skill sets and more experienced developers in the Vietnam market itself. And also more internationalized, right? Because they have been experienced, they have experience working with overseas companies. Vietnamese developers by role, most of them there's always a more fresher coming out that will become junior. We have some middle and middle class middle experienced developers, and of course it tapers down towards leadership. So a lot of time when companies go into Vietnam, you want to seek the senior first and the leadership team first to build up that core few people in the market as your team before you hire the middle slash junior developers to bulk up the rest of the team. We can talk about more of that in later on. Right. Next slide, please. Yeah. So over here, if you can scan this QR code, this will help you to give you the access to the reports that we have done up on the Vietnam Tech Talent Market snapshot. It's like it gives you the whole market overview. It gives you the tech hiring cycle. When should you go to hire in Vietnam? What are the most in-demand tech roles that you can hire for? And also the whole recruitment cycle, like when is the busy period, when is the low season in the Vietnam market itself to start your recruitment journey, to start your team building journey.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Frank, for your insights. Before we move on to the next speaker, as mentioned by Frank, do scan the QR code on the screen and you will be able to download this Vietnam Tech Talent Market Report. If you're unable to scan it, no worries. We will be sending this link along with the recording of today's webinar. Right, so do look out for it inside your email in your inbox. Now that we've seen the big picture, let's zoom in on how to actually find great developers, the kind of talent that's reliable, collaborative, and the right fit for your business, as mentioned by Frank. Leading this session is Mr. Tran, Head of Recruitment at Talent JDI. Vo has helped dozens of startups and fast-growing companies hire skilled engineers and build their core teams in Vietnam. From sourcing to screening to onboarding, he knows what to look out for and how to spot truly exceptional talent. Vo, over to you, sir.
Yes, so thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the today's session. And my name is Vũ, and I'm so excited to share some practical insights on how to find and hire great developer in Vietnam. So next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the current hiring landscape. So first, there is a clear gap between the most in-demand roles and the most available talent. So for example, why everyone want, let's say, experienced full stack developer, the supplies on the market is very limited. So this means that the company needs to be creative. So sometimes hiring for, let's say, potential and investing in training rather than just looking for top tier candidate. English communication skill are now a top priority. So many Vietnamese developers have strong technical skill, but those who can communicate in English are especially valuable. So because they can work directly with the international client or in a distributed team. So if you are hiring, considering offering English training as a benefit, this is I think this is a win-win for both employee and employer sides. Upskilling and reskilling are also the key. So the best candidates are those who are always learning, whether it's picking up a new framework, getting certified in cloud technologies, or learning about AI. So companies that support continuous learning tend to attract and retain better talent. So finally, be aware of the hiring cycle. So the busiest time of the year are usually after Lunar New Year and in the fall when the budgets are reviewed and the new projects are kicked off. So conversely, hiring slow down during major holidays. So please plan your recruitment campaign accordingly. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's take a look at the salary breakdown at the level of the developer and capacities. So the first one is the detailed breakdown of the average salaries of a developer in Vietnam. So for junior developer who have around 2 years experience, the average salaries is about 614 USD. For the middle level who has around 2 to 4 years experience, the average is 1,147 US dollar. For senior who have more than 5 years experience, the average is around 1,974 US dollar. So for the leader and the manager, usually their salary is about 2,454 US dollar. So this cost advantage allow company to scale faster, invest more in the product development, or offer better benefit to retain staff. So the image on the right side is the salary breakdown by cities. So you might know that just like Frank said before, there are three big cities in Vietnam. So the first one is Ho Chi Minh City, so which stand out as the Vietnam most vibrant and energetic cities. So it's the country commercial destination and a magnet for global investment, especially from Singapore. So the city dynamic atmosphere has made it a foundation for startup together here from all over the world. So in Ho Chi Minh City, a junior developer can earn around, let's say, 660 US dollar per month, while senior can make up to 2,122 US dollar. And for lead or manager, it's about 2,639 US dollar. The second one is the Hanoi city. So Hanoi is our Vietnam capital, and it is the political and administrative hub. So Hanoi is where you will find a lot of headwater from major tech companies, and especially they are from China, Japan, and South Korea. So this city established business environment, making a magnet for large-scale operations and experienced professionals. So compared to Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi is slightly less expensive. So with junior at 591 US dollar and lead at 2,360 US dollar. The third one is Da Nang. Da Nang is known for its stunning beach. So the city is a top destination for tourism and hospitality. But beside that, Da Nang is also a growing tech city with many well-known outsourcing companies to seem to be here. So Da Nang offers even more competitive rate with junior at 540 US dollar and lead at 2,454 US dollar. So there is an interesting tip from our experience. If you are searching for seasoned expert in, let's say, classic technology like Golang or .NET, Hanoi is your best place. This is a stronghold for traditional tech talent. But If your focus is on the developer who are fluent in the latest and most exciting technology, such as Node.js or AI, you will find Ho Chi Minh City to be a thriving hub for innovations and next generation skills. Okay, so next slide, please. So one of the biggest advantage of hiring in Vietnam is cost saving. So company can save up to 60% compared to hiring in the US, Europe, or even in Singapore. So for a typical tech team, that is about 200,000 USD in annual savings. So this cost advantage allow company to scale faster, invest in more product development. So you can see the average salary of some tech position on the market in Vietnam. So I think for more detail, you can scan our QR code that appear on the screen. It will lead you to access to our full salary report. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the salaries isn't just the only cost. So let's break down what you actually pay when you hire a developer in Vietnam. So you can see the table on the left side. So the first row is the gross salaries. So this is the pay salaries negotiated with the candidate. The second one is the mandatory contribution and trade union funds. So these include the social insurance, about 17.5%, health insurance, 3%, unemployment insurance, 1%, and the last one is the TUF, mean trade union funds. So these are required by labor law and ensure your employee have basic protections. So please take note that all of the contribution have a maximum cap. The third one is the employee benefit. So bonus, training, team building activities, and sometimes have checkup or wellness programs. The next one is the operational cost. So this cover extra admin support, workspace, equipment, infrastructure, and software license. And the last one is the external provider fees. So if you use staffing agencies or payroll providers, so there are additional fees for their services. Okay, so now let's try an example. So for a senior software developer who has the gross salary at 2,000 USD per month, then you can see that on the table on the right side, right? We have the mandatory contribution, the optional employee benefits, the operational cost, and the external operational cost. So all of these will lead to the total monthly cost is around 2,900 USD. So this is still very competitive compared to other markets. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so as we know the cost component of a developer, yes, the figure are in USD. Okay, so we already understand the cost component of a developer. Okay, so now let's see what it costs to build a small but effective team in Vietnam. Okay, so let's say you want to build a team with 4 people, a senior full stack developer who can act as a lead, a full stack developer, an AISD, and a tester. So let's assume their salaries lie in the first row of the table, which is senior full stack developer 2,200 USD, full stack developer 1,300 USD, AI engineer 2,400 USD, tester is 900 USD. The total monthly cost for this team is around 9,946 USD. So this includes all the salaries, benefits, and operational expenses. So for many companies, this is less than the cost of a single senior developer in Silicon Valley. So please take note that this is just the average salary on the market, and this is for reference only. So the real number might be a bit higher, and it depends on many different factors, such as the index proficiencies of the candidate. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so if you want more detailed data, including the detail of the cost breakdown of the salary component and the salary trends by technology stack or cities, please scan the QR code on the slide to access the full JDI cost template. So it's a great resource for benchmarking and planning your hiring strategy. Okay, so to wrap up, Vietnam offers a vibrant, skilled, and cost-effective tech talent pool. So the market is very competitive. So understanding salary benchmark, cost component, and hiring trends is very crucial. So invest in your team growth, offer competitive package, and you will be well positioned to build a high-performing tech team here. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any question at the end of the workshop today. Thank you, everyone. I will
Thank
to
you,
you,
Bo, for
Jason.
sharing. Thank you so much. As mentioned by Bo earlier on, there's a QR code for you to download the hiring cost guide, and this will be something that can help you to understand and better break down, right, what are the cost considerations. Obviously, the best way is to tap into Bo and his team directly. So we will be very happy to answer any of the questions you have during the Q&A segment or via email or Zoom meeting or Google meeting later on as well. As mentioned, we will have another segment. All right, so the next segment will be by Mr. Quentin. This will be on building an effective team in the modern era. And this is how you can really build and manage a team that performs across distance, culture, and time zones. To walk us through getting past the first step after getting a talented developer, Mr. Quentin Bitschené, Technical Director at Huge, he will be here to share with us with his years of experience leading remote engineering teams, managing large-scale projects, and delivering solutions that drive business growth. He's a builder at heart with a deep understanding of team dynamics, culture, and performance. Mr. Quentin, sir, take it away.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. I'm Quentin. As you can probably hear it from my accent, I'm not Vietnamese or Singaporean. I am French, so if there is anything you would like me to repeat, please do not hesitate. Let me give you a quick 1-minute introduction of myself and what I do. I'm Technical Director. I've been working at Huge for 4 years, and I've started to build and run teams in Vietnam for 3 years. I am based in Singapore, and I worked on a daily basis with my teams in Vietnam. What is Huge? Huge is a design and technology company. We create digital products and experiences with AI. Huge has a wide range of clients across tech, e-commerce, financial services. I will be happy to share more details about Huge if you have any questions. Let's talk about my experience building teams and running teams in Vietnam. I have 2 sets of responsibilities. One is to manage all of the engineers in our Vietnam office, grow their skill sets, making sure that they have a balanced workload and all the tools they need to do their work efficiently. The other side of my role is towards project delivery. I handle staffing, technical direction, process implementation, and ensure deliverable meet quality standards. I travel to Vietnam every 8 weeks or so. I believe that in-person presence remains essential for trust building and operational efficiency. But enough about me. Today we're here to talk about tech teams in Vietnam. Let's start with what it's like working with Vietnamese engineers. Next slide, please. Disclaimer, before I start, I'm going to talk in generalities about my experience with my team. Individuals and teams are different. There will always be a balancing exercise between a leader adapting to their team and a team adapting to their leader. First, there is the cultural strength and work ethic. The engineers I work with show a high level of commitment and loyalty, a strong respect of hierarchy, a respect of age, respect of experience. They are very coachable, they are open to feedback, and they have a willingness to go to the extra mile. In short, if you're willing to invest time into your developers, they will invest time in you and your projects. Next, we have communication styles. My teammates in Vietnam have a tendency towards indirect communication. It is important to build an environment of safety to encourage open dialogue. About English proficiency is improving steadily. The younger generations are usually more fluent and comfortable with speaking in English. My recommendation here is to learn how to read between the lines, double check your assumptions, make sure that yes and no's are actually yes and no's. It could be that they are afraid of speaking out. About technical skills, the developers in Vietnam are technically strong, in particular in web, mobile, and backend, especially JavaScript, Node.js, React, and React Native. They are fast learners and good at adapting. Their strengths lie in practical delivery, although sometimes there is a need for more upfront planning. Here are my recommendations. Be very clear about planning, timelines, and deliverables. If a task is outside of the area of expertise of your developers, don't be afraid to check with your team. They will certainly take on the challenge. About collaboration habits. They enjoy working in teams. They have a strong team-first mindset, and they thrive when there is clarity, structure, and well-defined expectations. You should create an environment where teammates can bond, for example, during team lunch, game outside of working hours, and acknowledge individual contributors, and on top of that, team efforts equally. Now we can review some of the common challenges and how to overcome them. You will probably recognize themes. There is a tendency to avoid conflicts or say yes too quickly. Navigating time zone difference and differences in cultures will always be a challenge for global companies and companies that try to expand in different markets. My recommendation here is to give your team context when asking them questions so that they can understand that their opinion and that their answer matters. Make sure that you understand the challenge of working with international teams. Plan your meetings around obligations of your key players in your team. For example, if your tech lead has to pick up their kids at 5 p.m., there is not going to be a crucial meeting happening at 5 p.m. Plan your meetings around, record those meetings, share the recordings, communicate global goals, office updates, and when delivering projects, give your team a shout out so that the rest of the company can see their efforts. Make them feel visible and feel recognized, not only locally, but globally. Now, next slide, please. Now let's focus more precisely on what's like leading teams in Vietnam. Your starting point will be building trust and autonomy. Your consistency and availability as a leader will build trust, sharing internal secrets, and by secrets I mean little tidbits about the way the company is running internally. Showing humility will make a big difference in their eyes. Here my recommendations are: make yourself available. If someone made the effort of reaching out to you, they made a big effort, so return that effort twofold. Plan one-on-ones on a weekly, fortnightly, or monthly basis, up to you. Tell them to come to that meeting with a list of a couple of topics that they wish to discuss. Give them the space to talk freely, give them updates on things that they might not be aware, update on other projects happening around them, update on office level, company level, and such things. Create a culture of ownership. It is essential to shift from task takers to proactive problem solvers. Encourage initiatives without micromanaging is essential. My recommendation here, do not micromanage. This will be a huge mistake for you and your team. Your team will have their own ways of doing things. Focus on initial brief, expected deliverables, remind them of important midway milestones, and final deliveries. When you notice someone doing a good job, taking an initiative or voicing their concern properly, make them feel noticed. Take note for yourself, this is good, but more importantly, publicly shout out their good work so that people can clearly identify appreciated behavior. Direct feedback is very, very important. Now let's talk about balancing speed and quality. Vietnam teams are fast, but leading high-performance teams in Vietnam means introducing strong planning, retrospective, code review, and disciplines. My recommendations: empower your tech leads to be your quality gates. Give them the time to be leads so they can review code, they can review quality. Balance their time so that they can focus on quality delivery and not just delivery. Talent development and career growth. I cannot stress enough how important it is to build a local reporting line and empower emerging leaders from within. My recommendation here are to map out in a public and easily accessible document the career path of your engineers. Each path, be it backend, front-end, QA, should have a list of titles from junior to director level and above, a list of expected responsibilities for each title. This will make your growth path clear to everyone. Natural leader will aim for the next role, take on more responsibilities, and you should reward them for that. Make sure to build a strong local reporting line. Not everybody can report to you, not everybody can report to your director level or above. In a perfect world, a couple of junior engineers will report to a senior, 3 to 5 senior will report to a tech lead, 3 to 5 tech leads will report to a technical director. It is going to create a very comfortable atmosphere for your local developers to have a local manager. This way, you will grow your key players into the next role, make them senior, make them leads, grow them into your reliable partners. They will help you manage your team, manage your project, and scale up your organization. The final section, blending global practices with local strength. If you are a global company looking to expand in Vietnam, you have to adapt to Vietnam work culture. Not all meetings and communication have to happen in English. Give your team space and time to work in Vietnamese. When things get technical, I don't hesitate to push them to communicate in Vietnamese, and I tell them to get back to me with their approach and final answer in English. I identify what are the expectations of a Vietnamese worker working in Vietnam. For example, a hybrid model, company trip once a year, lunch break duration, expected working hours. There is going to be quite a few differences between the place where you come from and the Vietnamese work culture. In summary, Vietnamese developers are fast, technically strong, highly committed. Leading high-performance teams require excellent communication, structure, transparency, and local leadership development. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to follow up, feel free to ask any questions or reach out. Thank you. Take it away, Jason.
All right. Thank you, Quentin, for sharing so passionately and so informatively during this session as well. We do look forward to having questions for you later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want more insights into what developers are earning, or if you have some questions, do put it inside the chat box. But for the QR code over here, this will help you to download the 2025 Vietnam Developer Salary Report. All right. Once again, if you're not able to download it now because you're using your mobile to join us for today's webinar, we will be sending this to you. So do look out for it in your inbox. All right, as we get ready for the Q&A session, I just want to say once again a big thank you to all speakers, especially Mr. Quentin, for your sharing. I hope everyone had a chance to take away something insightful. And if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already entered your questions into the chat box, please submit them, and we will do our best to get them answered through the three speakers who will be staying with us until 3:30 p.m. In the meantime, I think I'll start with one of the questions that we have prepared for our speakers. So this question will be directed at Frank and Quentin. All right, the first question will be, why should a startup or a company choose Vietnam over China or India or even Indonesia when the costs can be quite similar? So maybe we'd like to have Mr. Frank to start us off. Frank, if you're speaking, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we don't get a lot of requests for China from the China side of things, right? Even among the companies that we own, right? Because I think there is a fear of going to China itself for developers, and the cost in China isn't low as well. If you're going to tier one city, they are even at similar price as Singapore from our context, right? So that's not really an option anymore. If you go tier two and tier three cities, then the question of communication also comes in because a lot of them may not be able to speak English. So a lot of our JDI clients, they have teams over in Indonesia as well as Vietnam and some in Malaysia or Philippines, right? So from their point of view, they do find that the Vietnamese developers are generally more productive. Simply because they are very inquisitive, they work they're very focused and work very hard. If there's technical questions on hand, they would be able to doggedly dig up and try and resolve the issues. So that's why in the comparison itself, Vietnam is a preferred. In fact, some of companies, some of clients who has already teams over in Indonesia, they will start switching over. That means grow the tech team in Vietnam more. But then some will take on the diversification strategy. They will have separate teams in different countries. Some of them also have teams in India as well. So India, of course, is one of the biggest outsourcing countries, right? But a lot of the Singapore companies that we have, right, they are not able to ensure the quality of development over in India itself. And also, if you are going for the great developers, they are also being employed in the good companies in India itself at high salaries. So those may be out of reach. So if they're going for the tier two and tier three, there's also communication issues as well, because when they talk about the deliverables, sometimes there's a misunderstanding of what is to be delivered, what is not to be delivered. So and that's a pretty common challenge if language is non-native, as well as cultural issues because a yes may not be as what you think as yes is. Yes can be I understand your question, or yes can be I will try and do it, or yes I commit to do it, or yes means I understand what you're trying to say, but I don't really agree with it, right? So all these nuances needs to be taken care of. So maybe I pass over to Quentin.
Yeah, definitely. hearing it from someone who's working with the local team as well, right? So Quentin,
Thank you.
why Vietnam as compared to, or maybe does Huge has teams from maybe in China, India, or even Indonesia?
I would say that China is often looked at as a market that could be replaced and replaceable by Vietnam, or the other way around. One of the things I've seen when running projects is that Vietnam does not have the issue of the Great Firewall of China, right? If your company and your clients are working with specific technologies that are not supported by the Great Firewall of China, I'm thinking, for example, about the Google environment in particular, then of course your workflow is going to be impacted. You will have to find ways of going around that. VPN, of course, being one of those solutions, but that will add technical difficulties to your work.
Wow, that's really coming from the ground itself. We have another question that's coming from our audience, right? So, talking about Vietnam culture, should we offer them 13-month bonus to stay competitive in the market? I think, Quentin, that's right on your ground, right? Yep.
Absolutely. This is the things that we plan from day zero when we are running a hiring campaign and we need to hire for projects. We will look at the globality of the expense for a very specific candidate and employee. And that will include, of course, 13-month bonus and all of the details that were shared by our other speaker, Mr. Vu, just earlier. There is going to be a few things to consider, not just the base salary, but a few things on top of that. And that should definitely enter into your consideration.
All right. Maybe I'd like to hand the time over to Vo to share, other than 13-month bonus, what other bonuses could help to attract and retain talent as well?
I think besides the 13-month payment, we also have a lot of different bonus that we can provide to the employee in Vietnam, so such as the performance bonus, which is also the bonus that a lot of developers are looking at when they want to apply to a company. The other bonus, such as let's say the training bonus, because not just about technical skill, right? So the candidate, the employee would like to improve in some of, let's say, non-technical aspect. So they are looking at if the company can provide the training bonus or not. So I think those are the bonus that that a company can consider in order to provide to the employee in Vietnam.
Thank you, Vo, for sharing. We have another question by Ms. Bernice, right? So, is it recommended to do exchange programs between countries for the technical teams? Example, those based in Singapore going to Vietnam for 6 months, example, to set the standards and ensure smooth communication responsibilities, etc. I think, yeah, Quentin, over to you. What's the experience or best practice from your team?
Absolutely. I think it is safe to say that it's more than recommended. It's pretty much mandatory. If you want to build the kind of relationship that you expect from your workers working in Singapore, collaborating with your team in Vietnam, you need to build that trust. And some of that goes through sending your teammates from Singapore to Vietnam for a couple of weeks. Like I said, for myself, I travel to Vietnam every 8 weeks or so. And very much at the beginning, when we started the Vietnam adventure at Huge, it was way more than once every 8 weeks.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Frank, you have been advising startups who are from Singapore entering the Vietnam market as well. Any additional insights to share?
Yeah, so I would definitely, there is not, as Quentin said, it's mandatory, right? For there to be more collaboration, more interaction between Singapore and Vietnam. But I really look at the question from Berenice, right? It's about outstation to Vietnam for first 6 months. If you can, that's a good possibility. If you can, that's great, right? Because if you have the Singapore team outstation there, 6 months is very good. But the question is it possible for 6 months for any Singapore team member to be in Vietnam? The answer, most of the time, the Singapore team doesn't have the ability to, because the families in Singapore. So what happens is that there is more frequent traveling, maybe to fly into Vietnam once every month, stay 1 week or so, and they will send different people of the team, different team leads to go over there, or they'll send them down for Rara sessions. The thing is, the more interaction, the better it is. Yeah, but I'm just thinking, yeah, our station in 6 months, we haven't seen such companies yet. Oh, we have seen founders that basically lift up their whole belongings, like pack their bags, go to Vietnam, and they relocate over there for 1 month, 2 months. That has happened before.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about employees, that may be a bit harder to happen. Not the very often case. But that doesn't mean that it cannot work out, right? It just means that we have to do more frequent travels between two teams. Sometimes you can also have the Vietnamese come to Singapore to understand the culture. You can earmark those Vietnamese team leads that you want to be playing a greater leadership position in Vietnam, then bring them over here, understand the culture from Singapore side, and bring that over to Vietnam to get the practice up and running.
I mean, I see Quentin nodding his head, so definitely something he's experienced himself as well. Another question that we have from one of the audience members, do we have recommended practices for hiring software engineers with good English communication? I mean, whether it's Da Nang or any other part of Vietnam, right? I think this is a great question. Maybe I'll let Vo handle this question first, and then we can also circle back to Quentin. Yeah, so Vo, over to you.
Okay, I think so, from our experience at Talent JDI, finding candidates with that the strong English skill is always a challenge, not just in Da Nang, but also in other cities in Vietnam as well. So as you may know that English has become increasingly important, almost a must-have for fresh graduate in Vietnam nowadays. So that means that the younger developers tend to have pretty good English proficiencies. However, when it comes to, let's say, more experienced developer, English can often be let's say a difficult for them. So at Talent JDI, there are a lot of practice so that we can apply in order to hire a developer who can speak English well, especially in Da Nang. So let's say maybe the first one we can define clear English requirement. So we specify the level of English proficiency needed. So let's say conversational, business, or technical English. Next one is we decide if our team member needs strong English or just list manager strong English. So the most common practice in Vietnam is the lead will handle the communications with the headquarter. So the other will focus on the technical work. The next one is we should highlight the English requirement in our job descriptions. And we mentioned that the English will be used daily in the meeting, in documentation, in the client call as well. Next one we have we bring sprint for the English skill. So there are a lot of tools that can help us to do that. So for example, we use the AI tool or the other online assessment to evaluate English skill of the candidate before the interviews. We then maybe ask for, let's say, the English series or the English certificate from the candidate as well. Next one is we do the interview in English. So I suggest that most of the interview round will be conducted in English. So especially for the role requiring direct communication with the international team. So we should include some scenario-based questions to test the real-world communications. So let's say, for example, we ask them to explain a technical concept to a non-technical client. So for example, then we may, let's say, because developer with strong English skill in Da Nang might command higher salary than the other. So we should offer competitive salaries in order to attract them. And I think maybe the company can also provide upskilling opportunities. So let's say we offer English training, maybe sponsor certification as part of the benefit package. So we encourage participation in international projects or conference. So there are the, let's say, the opportunity that we can provide to the candidate. And maybe another thing is we can do reference check. So we verify the English communication skill with the, let's say, as employer, especially if the candidate claim that they have experience working with the foreign client, right? So we can do reference check in order to check if what they say is true or not, right? Okay, so I think this is most of the method that we can say.
All right, thank you, Vo. Quentin, over to you. Have you worked or hired with any developers from Da Nang? I mean, whether is it with huge or previous capacity?
We did actually. Our employee number one and number two were two QA engineers from Danone.
Wow.
The answer for English specifically, I think that it starts with identifying in your team what is the level of English do you need for each engineer. For example, if we have a fairly big team and we have a few junior engineers, and on top of that, we have a few senior and tech lead people, we don't need every single engineers to be perfectly fluent in English. What matters is the people that will be interacting on a daily basis, which is a couple of senior people and a couple of tech leads, for example. So I would work with, for example, JDI and identify which role will need a certain level of fluency in English. And during our hiring process, we'll start with the first round of interview in Vietnamese to test their technical skills. And following that, every interview after that will be run in English. And that is going to be a good filter to figure out whose person is not only technically savvy, but also fluent in English and capable of interacting in a different language. And there's going to be technical conversation that will happen in English, process questions, maybe even teamwork, team spirit questions, and all of those conversations will happen in English, so that we have a pretty good idea on how those people will manage to highlight their profile and their fluency during the hiring process.
All right. I think there's a question that was asked earlier on. Just give me a moment to scroll it up. I think this is from Mr. Sang. I'm worried about quality control. How do we ensure the code from the teams meet our standards? I think this is very applicable also when it comes to security point of view. For some of like our audience members who are working with the government, right? So I think maybe I would like to get Frank to answer this question first, then maybe we get Quentin as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually do have government customers, right? And where there's also cybersecurity customers who is really cautious about the security of codes, right? So a lot of times, right, they would require the developer to VPN over, set up a VPN structure whereby they VPN into the home country, right, for all the code-based development. And when they do development, they split it up into different things. Maybe they do API-based access of the code, so that none of them will have full access to all the different codes available. If you want even more stringent, it could be that they cannot bring back the laptops. They have to be locked up in the office, right? So all this kind of control is necessary, and also double check whenever there is any bringing in and out of things, there has to be a logbook to keep track of things. Also, there are systems, right, for you to be notified whenever there is mass download of stuff, right? And that's important to have, right? When anybody download more than, I don't know, one gigabyte or 200 megabyte, then there'll be a notification to the system admin that things are being taken out of. Password sharing as well, there has to be concern about that. It's always on a need to know basis before you can access the coding thing. I think Quentin may have a lot of insights on this. Quentin, do you have any insights?
On the QA side of things, I can speak on that. The way we've started at Huge is that we started to actually hire our employee number one and number two were QA people, and they were not the only QA people in the region. So we started to do a mixed team between Singapore and Vietnam. We coached those people to the point where we were very satisfied with their work and that they could work on their own on different projects. And that's from that point on that we started to scale up and to rely completely on our QA team in Vietnam. So my recommendations for code quality and QA in general would be to start with a bit of a mixed team, Vietnam plus whatever market you're currently in. And if you're looking to transition your team from local team to Vietnam, you can do that over time fairly safely. That's the way we have achieved it.
Awesome. All right. We have a question that I would like to quickly answer as well. So this is by Mr. Tushar. Is JDI promoting startups to initiate enter into Vietnam? On the group level, there's quite a few different things that we do. One of them is helping clients to go to market into Vietnam. We'll share about that in a separate conversation. But for today's webinar, it's really about helping our clients to understand why Vietnam, why choose Vietnam as a talent base. And that's why we have also Mr. Quentin today to share from his experience working with a Vietnam team. All right, Mr. Quentin once again is from Huge, and they are working with global clients around the world. So definitely he has lots of experience traveling up and down Vietnam to also manage and lead a team. I would like to go to one more question before the time is up. So this is from Tandy called Breck. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. But your question is, I've seen BA and project managers taking the role of the spokesperson in English, whereas engineers are limited in have limited English. Is it recommended, or should we do without a BAPM and rely only on a tech lead that can speak English? So I think I would like to hand this question over to Vo first. Then I think Quentin, you've answered that, I believe, in some way earlier on. But maybe Vo, would you like to share?
I think okay from my experience, that is very common and effective in Vietnam to have a PA project manager as the main English speaking spokesperson when the engineer have limited with English. So I think this ensures clear communication with client and let engineer focus on the technical work. So, but if the project is highly technical, a tech lead might be a better option because a tech lead with strong English can take the lead in discussions. So for most of the team, a hybrid approach work best. The PA or the PM will handle the communication, while the tech lead will join for the technical topic. So I think in summary, using a PA, a project manager as an English spokesperson is recommended. But with the tech lead involved, is required for technical matter. So this balance the communication quality and the team efficiently. So this is from my experience.
Thank you for sharing, Vo. Quentin, as always, we love your insights.
I will give an answer where it depends on the project you are running. If we are working on a project that is a fairly small team, let's say a bit less than 10 people involved, the BA/project manager might be able to do the job and to be that spokesperson. When we are getting into territories where things are getting a bit bigger and a bit more complicated, this is not going to work. You will have to have technical conversations that your BA or project manager will be probably a bit lost since their technical background might be limited. So you're going to reach a point where you absolutely want your technical director or your tech lead to have a proper English conversations about deeply technical things with the different engineers that you will have in Vietnam. So my recommendation is this can probably work for small, maybe to mid-size project and teams. But if you are starting to engage into bigger and more complex projects, I would recommend to put a bit more focus on proper English communication skills with your technical developers.
Thank you. I think just want to appreciate Abdun, right, for the shout out, the client of JDI. Okay, so I know it's already 3:33 p.m., right? So before we end today's session, speakers, can I just request for one last line or sentence of advice for those who have given their time to attend today's session and the webinar, right? So maybe with Frank starting, and then Vo, and then lastly Quentin. One last line or one last sentence of advice on how do you seek talent in Vietnam, or what are some of the experiences you have in one line? Thank you.
Don't hesitate. Oh, sorry, me first? Go for it, Frank.
I'm going to let Quentin saving the best for the last. Yeah, Frank first, yeah.
One liner. I think it will be just do it. But if you extrapolate that, I think we have to start trying because the market, we are not going to go to a market where there's going to be more developers. So the water is just going to get hotter and hotter. So it's better to start earlier and experiment with small teams first to gain confidence before you go and have the confidence to do like a bigger exposure to Vietnam itself. That's typically what we do with a lot of clients. They first hire the first 3. Then from the first 3, they got good buy-ins ready. Then they go to the next 10, then the next 20, next 50.
All right. Thank you, Frank. More than one sentence, but we will summarize it. Over to Vo, right? Your one sentence or one line of advice.
I think I would say that thank you everyone for joining the session today. So on behalf of the Talent JDI, I would like to say thank you for that because, and I would like to say that whether if you want to, let's say, to expand your team, or this is the first time you are entering the Vietnam market. So if you feel challenges and let's say you do not understand our market very well, then please just contact Talent JDI, and we know that we will be very glad in order to support you for that. So just feel free to bring me later or even
All
after
right.
the workshop. Just bring me on LinkedIn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vo. And just for some of you who might not be aware, right? In Vietnam, they actually use another app called Zalo. So if you haven't heard of Zalo before, to check it out, it's Zalo, Zalo. And from what I heard, I think Telegram is banned or going to be banned in Vietnam very soon as well, right? So okay, saving the best for the last, Mr. Quentin. Your advice, having worked with the Vietnam market.
I will try to fit that into one sentence. In short, is your challenges are probably going to be a bit of communication and a bit of leadership. So don't hesitate to go with someone where you feel like you had a good chat, you had a good vibe about that person, and they will probably surprise you. It is a very exciting market in general, and there is no doubt that you will find the right people for the job you have in mind.
Thank you so much, Quentin. All right, and thank you, Paula, right? Hope I pronounced your name correctly this time around, for the shout out once again. And that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us, and hope this session has given you useful insights and sparked new ideas on how you can grow your tech team efficiently and effectively. As mentioned, we will be sending the recording and resources straight to your inbox. If you would like to speak with any one of us for your hiring needs for Vietnam as a talent destination, we will be sending you all the resources via email, so that is where you can contact us as well. My name is Jason, and on behalf of the Talent JDI team, as well as JDI Group, thank you for joining us today. Take care and have a blessed week ahead. See you at the next Talent JDI webinar. Bye-bye.